when you watch Young, he looks uncomfortable. In other words, normally short quarterbacks have to be one of two things. They either have to be really finely tuned and precise as timing rhythm players. Young has not shown the ability to do that at the NFL level.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a teaching tutorial Thursday presented by DraftKings, which means the civilian GOAT, Greg Cosell from NFL Films, is in the house. We'll dive into all these games, or at least as many as we can, with Greg momentarily. I should point out, and heck, I will point out, that tomorrow, giving away winners. Somebody that spreads the word via social media, could be engaging with @RossTuckerPod or @RossTuckerNFL, or could just be rating and reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts. Sponsor confirmation email winner, any week where someone goes to westshorehome.com/Ross or use the code Ross at futurefans.com there, or Game Time. Those are the big ones I'm looking for the sponsor confirmation email winner. And then YouTube shout out, youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL. Subscribe, make a comment. I will send you guys a video, which I absolutely love to do, almost as much as I love to tell you guys about West Shore Home. Here's the deal. I've now gotten 2 new showers and a new front door, all from westshorehome.com/Ross. If you've ever been curious about what my house looks like, go to westshorehome.com/Ross. More importantly, if you've ever thought about, you know what, my doors are kind of ugly and it would make the house look a lot better, or gosh, my wife or my daughters or whoever would love a new shower, westshorehome.com/Ross. Not only 48 months, 0% interest, but you get an extra $500 off. Just you guys. You can't find that anywhere else. westshorehome.com/Ross. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, he is the man, the myth, the legend, Greg Cosell, presented, of course, by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. Greg, I guess we have to start with the news out of Carolina that Bryce Young has been benched for Andy Dalton. And there's a lot of stuff we could get into there about where that decision's coming from and who's making it and making it this soon and all those things, right? But he has not played well through a season and 2 games. Did we miss something here, Greg? By we, I mean pretty much everybody, because I don't remember anybody saying this is a terrible first pick, you shouldn't take him. I don't even remember people banging the drum and saying that the Carolina Panthers should definitely take C.J. Stroud instead of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what stands out on film is, number one, people say, well, he's short. But, obviously there are other quarterbacks that are short. Kyler Murray's short. Russell Wilson played in the league at a reasonably high level for years, being short. So you can't just say he's short. But I think when you watch Young, he looks uncomfortable. In other words, normally short quarterbacks have to be one of two things. They either have to be really finely tuned and precise as timing rhythm players, like Drew Brees. Drew Brees was listed at 6 feet. Maybe he was 6 feet. Baker Mayfield is listed at 6 feet. You have to be able to play with a refined sense of timing and rhythm so you can hit your back foot and deliver the football to the right receiver at the right time with the right kind of throw. Young has not shown the ability to do that at the NFL level. The other thing, if you're short, is you must have some kind of explosive athletic movement. Kyler Murray has explosive athletic movement. Russell Wilson in his prime had really good athletic movement. You might not call him explosive in the way Murray is explosive, but he certainly made big plays with his legs and certainly did so in critical high-leverage game situations. While Young is a good athlete, he's not that level of athlete. So really, as it's turned out in the NFL, those two areas, he's not really been able to perform at a high enough level. So therefore, there's not really anything for him to fall back on right now. Now, can he get better over time being a precise pocket player? Sure he can. But right now, he's not that guy. We can debate whether they should have benched him. It's obviously a new coaching staff, and he's only played 2 games. We don't know what goes on day to day. But the bottom line is the tape tells you that he's not really a good enough player right now to be a starting quarterback in the league.
You know what's interesting, Greg, is I think most people understood those things and knew those things. I think the belief was that he would be a finely tuned and precise timing and rhythm player.
I agree.
With better athleticism than Breeze and Baker Mayfield, or at least as good. But he hasn't been as precise as everybody thought he would be.
And the other factor, to be honest, is that he's such an amazing kid and an incredibly intelligent kid that I think the feeling was that he would get all this. And by the way, he still might. You know, I'm hard pressed after this amount of time to say that he can never be any good. But right now, as I said, the tape tells it all. The tape doesn't lie.
It looks like he's just lost his confidence. It looks like his confidence is shot.
And that could well be the case.
Let's get to tonight's game. Greg, interesting one. It's the Jets and the Patriots. Thursday night football. Jets lost Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah.
So now they're down essentially, I guess, a couple defensive ends. And I have respect for the way the Patriots are playing, Greg. They kind of know who they are, and they got a formula for staying competitive in these games. What jumps out to you about either one of these teams tonight?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Patriots. Obviously, many people thought they'd be among the worst teams in the league. And obviously, I love what you said because you're correct. They know who they are and how they have to play in order to compete. Now, that's not a way you're going to get to a Super Bowl, and I'm sure they know that. Obviously, they drafted Drake May, and he hasn't played yet because you can't necessarily win going into the playoffs and beyond but playing that way. But they know who they are, so they're a running football team. They ran for over 200 yards this past week with the combination of Ramondre Stevenson and Gibson. They keep it basic in the pass game, and their defense has played well. They do a lot of things. They play a lot of personnel. They've got a lot of sort of multi-dimensional, multi-positional players on defense that can line up in different spots. And they've got 2 defensive linemen who I really find fascinating to watch in White and Wise. Wise has been there for a number of years. White's a second-year player. They're both big, they're athletic, they're physical, and they can line up all across the defensive front. And they're difficult players to match up to for an offensive line.
I saw some clips of Keon White, Greg. He's killing people. I mean, he looks great.
And he's 6'4", 285, Ross. That's the thing. We're not talking about a 250-pound guy. I mean, you're talking about a big man. And Wise is also about 6'5", 270, 275. You don't see that very often in the league these days, as you know. And these guys, Wise has been sort of overlooked from a media perspective for years. He's been a really solid player for them.
You know, I'm intrigued by the Jets, their running backs. I mean, Breece Hall looked like a receiver on that one touchdown catch. And Braylon Allen, 4th-round pick, is really giving them a jolt so far.
Yeah, no question. You know, the thing about Allen that's really interesting, I remember watching him coming out of Wisconsin, and for a big back, I actually thought he was smoother more than powerful, believe it or not, based on his college tape. Everybody talks about because he's 235, 238, how powerful he is. I didn't think he actually ran that way. I thought he ran with light feet for a big back, and I think we're seeing that in the NFL. And obviously his touchdown run, that was just a really good play by a veteran quarterback who knew exactly what he was looking at. Aaron Rodgers saw where saw the front that the Titans lined up in, and he just changed the play from running to the left, running to the right, because he was not going to run to the strength of the defense. So he changed it to run to the weakness of the front, and therefore it ended up being, by NFL standards, a relatively easy touchdown. Their pass game is still not what it will be. I think Rodgers is still, figuring it out with with his receivers. Obviously, Mike Williams was back, and he made a big second and long catch on the fourth quarter TD drive on a back shoulder, which is the kind of thing he can do. And Rodgers never has a problem making one-on-one throws.
We got on Sunday the Bears and the Colts. A couple of young quarterbacks. Feels like they're struggling. Greg, what are you seeing from Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson?
I'm going to answer that this way, and I hope people can maybe generate some conversation on social media. What makes me, and I've been thinking about this for years and had conversation with coaches, what's the balance, Ross, between playing with efficiency from the pocket versus the ability to make special outside of structure plays? 15, 20 years ago, maybe even going further back, we all looked at the Troy Aikmans, the Carson Palmers as the prototype. Guys who were big, had really good arms, and played really efficiently from the pocket. So now what the college game is giving the NFL are great athletes, guys that can make plays outside of structure, but are really not overly efficient from the pocket. So let's say on a 1 to 10 scale, Ross, 10 being the best, that you have a quarterback that's a 5 from the pocket, but he can make special plays at any given time in a game. By the way, Kyler Murray falls into this category as well. How do we deal with that? Is that okay? Do we accept that that's just who they are? I mean, Anthony Richardson has missed a ton of easy, basic throws through 2 weeks. Just stuff that high school quarterbacks could make. And then, of course, we saw him week 1 make some special throws that maybe only Anthony Richardson can make. Caleb Williams at this point in his career is kind of the same way, although he's a better thrower from the pocket than Richardson at this point in time. So what's the balance there? And what are we trying to get accomplished as a coach? It's not likely Richardson or Williams will ever be Tom Brady or Drew Brees in terms of playing from the pocket, but you've got to get them to some level of higher level efficiency playing from the pocket.
Well, I think that's the goal, right? I think the goal is to see how far you can get them with that efficiency from the pocket, knowing that you have the other part of it, right? But it's a great question because I don't know that anybody knows the answer.
And there's no mathematical equation answer to that, but I think it's something I think about when I watch these quarterbacks. Williams is a really good thrower of the football. I mean, it comes out beautifully. He's an easy thrower. There's no problem with the way Williams throws a football, and he controls it very well. Richardson's a little different. Richardson has ball placement concerns. I would say Caleb Williams does not. But I think about this all the time when I watch them, the routine throws that they either don't turn it loose or they miss, and then can they make special plays? Yes. But what happens if in a given game they don't make those special plays? Then what do you have? Do you have enough for the quarterback to be an effective player in that given game?
Greg, what about a match of undefeated teams in Minnesota, the Texans and the Vikings?
Yeah. It's funny. We always think about the offense. Stroud, to me, he's one of my most favorite quarterbacks to watch. He's just, with his innate understanding, because I doubt you can teach this, of just timing, anticipation, feel for windows versus zone coverage, he's a really high-level player. And Darnold's played extremely well. And Darnold's always had ability. I mean, he was the number 3 pick in a draft. There was never a question about his ability. But I would say what stood out even more is I really, really enjoyed watching both teams' defenses through 2 weeks. I think that the Vikings, even last year with what Brian Flores did with his use of personnel, the fact that they led the league in both 3-man pass rushes and 6-man pass rushes is a really interesting dichotomy. I think that, again, they're leading the league in 6-man pass rushes. They're a really difficult defense to play against. They give up plays, but they're a really tough defense to play against. And Houston's defense, I think they've been so much fun to watch. And contrary to what people might believe, they don't necessarily use Stingley as a matchup corner. He'll normally play one side, but I just love the way they deploy their personnel. The way they use Petrie now is different than the way they used him last year. They've got Jimmy Ward, Eric Murray, guys who are both safeties and corners, so it gives them tremendous versatility in how they can be deployed. I've really enjoyed watching both those defenses.
Well, I think a lot of people are enjoying watching the New Orleans Saints so far this year, Greg, and they host the Eagles on Sunday, coming off that disappointing Monday night loss for the Birds. What are you thinking about the Saints and the Eagles?
Another team whose defense I love to watch. I can make an argument through 2 weeks, and again, not that I study every slot corner in great detail, but I think Alante Taylor could be the best slot corner in the NFL right now. He is a really, really good player. But the thing that stands out to me about the Saints, and you'll really appreciate this, Ross, is I think their O-line is playing at an exceedingly high level. They're physical, they're powerful, they're athletic. In the zone run game with Alvin Kamara, they get to the second level. They look really smooth and comfortable with these athletes working to the second level. I don't know how much you've gotten to see, but this O-line has been really, really fun to watch through 2 weeks.
What's crazy about that, Greg, is I had them as one of the bottom 5 offensive lines. A rookie left tackle that had never played left tackle
really well,
before.
by the way.
Penning at right tackle, who had only ever been horrible. Lucas Patrick at left guard. I mean, I don't know why people ask for my opinion, because evidently I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Patrick's a journeyman, who's played with a lot of teams, but, they've got McCoy at center, Ruiz at right guard. These guys look really, really good through 2 weeks. Now, again, let's caution. It's a small sample size, but this is what we have on tape so far.
What are you seeing from the Eagles, Greg?
The Eagles have some issues on defense with their D-line. Their D-line has not played well at all, both in the run game and rushing the quarterback. And the players they've counted on have not played well through 2 weeks. As I said, let's caution, 2 weeks. But Jalen Carter has not been an impact player through 2 weeks. Bryce Huff's not been able to generate any kind of consistent pass rush through 2 weeks. Jordan Davis, and I had this conversation with someone this week, he's now in his 3rd year. Maybe this is what he is. He's essentially not a really good player at this point. He holds the point, but he doesn't play off blocks and he doesn't play off contact, and he does not play on 3rd down. And you don't trade up and draft a D tackle with the 13th pick in the draft not to play on 3rd down. So again, he's now in his 3rd year. This individual I spoke with his head said by the 3rd year, guys pretty much declare what they are. So barring a meaningful change pretty soon, Jordan Davis is not the player that the Eagles hoped.
What about the Chargers and the Steelers, Greg?
The Chargers offense, Ross, you'll appreciate this. We know Greg Roman is the OC, right? And we know what he did with Patrick Ricard in Baltimore, correct?
Yep.
So they've got this kid named Scott Matlock, who was a 3-time All-Mountain West defensive tackle at Boise State. He's now their Patrick Ricard. He's played 45 snaps on offense through 2 games as a fullback, H-back, tight end. 40 of those 45 snaps, they have run the ball, and they're averaging 5.3 yards a rush. Think about that. 45 snaps in 2 games, and he's a defensive tackle who is an all-Mountain West performer at D-tackle.
I love it. That's Harbaugh.
And that's Harbaugh and Greg Roman right there.
What about the Lions and the Cardinals, Greg?
Yeah, that's a really intriguing game because, Kyler Murray is the guy this week everybody's talking about, and he sort of fits into the conversation that we just had because Murray is one of those guys that in some ways it's exactly the same conversation because Murray is kind of a frenetic player. I think his size makes him such because there are things he can't see. He always will present problems to the defense, just as Williams does, just as Richardson does, both for him in the design quarterback run game, the improvisational dimension that he brings, both must be factored into the defensive game plan. So defensive coordinators will tell you that he's difficult to play against, but there's not going to be consistency in his play. So therefore, he can make special plays as he did a week ago. I mean, I love the 60-yard touchdown to Harrison because that was a designed throwback to the tight end McBride that was taken away by the defense, or Murray thought it was taken away. So he just kept rolling out. And to Harrison's credit, because he was not the number 1 receiver, he sort of adjusted his route and it became a 60-yard touchdown. But Murray sort of falls into that same category. If he makes those plays, just like the Higgins 18-yard touchdown, then it's phenomenal. If he doesn't make those plays, then it can be an inconsistent offense because, you just don't have enough within the structure of the offense.
Greg, I'm always going to be selfish and ask you about my game because I want to. And I'm Monday night for Westwood 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Buffalo Bills. Anything intrigue you about either one of those teams?
Yeah, well, I love what the Bills are trying to do. I mean, they understand that it can't be the Josh Allen experience every week. So what they've really attempted to do is run the football. They've had 18 snaps with 6 offensive linemen in the first 2 weeks. 17 of those have been runs, which included James Cook 49-yard touchdown run against the Dolphins last Monday night, right after the fourth down play by Ed Oliver. They're averaging over 5 yards a carry. 17 of those 18 plays have been runs. So they are truly attempting to be much more, I hate to use the word balance, but the better point is they don't want it all to be about Josh Allen, because as we've discussed over the years, Ross, it's too hard to play that way. It's too hard to ask one guy to have a great game every single week, and that's the only way you can win. So they are truly trying. I think they're trying to get the rookie Davis from Kentucky involved in the run game as well. He's a different back than James Cook, so it gives them kind of a compliment. They know that they always have Josh Allen in critical situations, but they're trying not to make it all about him. And I think that's the right way to go, because I think their defense is, they've lost some players on defense. They're working in some new players at linebacker, at safety. So you need to play to your defense a little bit. You have to try to control the pace and tempo of games and not ask your defense to play 75 snaps.
Check him out on social media. He is the man at Greg Cosell. Great work as always, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
Love learning from Greg every week. And I love that I'm getting text messages and tweets and emails from you guys about your children learning from futurefans.com every week. David Merlino just sent me a picture of he and his son outside with the activity box, learning the downs with football. It is so cool to see how many of you guys have bought these boxes to make sure you can foster the love of football for your children. I hope you all do it. I really do. You know how I feel about the sport. The way Future Fans teaches is genius. You will not be disappointed. Go to futurefans.com, use code ROSS for 10% off, and unlock a lifetime of memories with a kid in your life starting now. That's code ROSS, futurefans.com, and then you'll be able to just sit there, drink some Labatt Blue Lights with your family, enjoy living life to the power of we, enjoy their company. Always enjoy it responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, we've got a game tonight. The New York Jets, they are hosting the New England Patriots, another AFC East battle on Thursday night. Who do you like in this one and why?
So my Thursday night pick is always my DraftKings pick, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I like the Jets. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a competitive game. The Patriots know who they are. They know how they need to play. And if they can run it effectively against the Jets, they absolutely could win this game. But ultimately, home game for the Jets. I'm not taking Jacoby Brissett on the road over Aaron Rodgers at home. I don't think there's a ton of points in this one. I'll go 20-17 Jets.
And we've got some injury news that includes Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco. He has a fractured fibula. He's going on the IR. Browns wide receiver David Bell. He is done for the season after he got hip surgery. And Broncos, their right tackle Mike McGlinchey, he has a sprained MCL.
Right. Well, the Pacheco news, that's significant because he's such a big part of what the Chiefs do. They actually signed Kareem Hunt. But right now, at least, Kareem Hunt got signed to the practice squad, and they bumped up Kid Ingram to the active roster. I would suspect that Kareem Hunt ends up getting on the active roster for the Chiefs sooner rather than later. I don't think they would bring him on just to be on the practice squad. Whether or not that's for this Sunday remains to be seen, but that's obviously a really big injury and a bummer of an injury because Pacheco is one of my favorite players in the whole league to watch. As for David Bell, he had gotten off to a decent start for the Browns through a couple games. He was playing. He was in their rotation as a receiver, so that's not good. Nor is it good that the Broncos just put McGlinchey, their highly paid right tackle, on IR because they got a young quarterback, right? So they're trying to make sure that he is protected, and now you lose the guy. Both their tackles are getting paid a lot. And then the Bengals signed Lawrence Guy, which speaks a little bit to the injuries they've had with their D tackles, which is not good this early in the season either. They're missing DJ Reader, who's now in Detroit as well. Other than that, Picks Friday tomorrow. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. I got to check, but I think I got an email from one of you guys that made an order. Myfrontpagestory.com, which I love. Best gift for a loved one ever. myfrontpagestory.com, backoffescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, and Pizza Boy Brewing.